Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rambling Toffee podcast. I am Mark. I hope everybody's doing okay today. Um, it's going to be a very doom and gloom kind of podcast today. I'm trying to be positive. Each week that I do these podcasts, and I'll just mention before I start today, is thank you for everybody for listening to my show, sharing it, and forwarding it on social media, giving me feedback when you can, and all of it's been very, very positive. But since I started doing this podcast, basically it's been something that I want to talk about Everton in a positive light and talk about the good things that we're going to do, especially in the beginning in the summer. Going forward, we're bringing players in and hopefully a change at board level and change in the ownership of the football club and everything that is regarding that at this moment at that time. But as each episode that I've done, it's just been very, very negative and very doom and gloom and looking for the hope and looking for the positives in any way I possibly could. And I did that. I did do that on occasions when it was sought to do, but it just continues on and on and on, and I don't know when it's going to end. So today's podcast is very much going still in the same pathway than my previous podcast that I've been doing, and just hope, as I always speak on here, it's my honest view. It's how I'm feeling at this precise moment. I've given myself a couple of days since the Arsenal game to think about that game specifically and how the performance was, and and the concerns that come from that game, which I'll go further into it in a moment. But of course, we've had at this moment we've got the takeover that's taking place with 777 partners, and everything that just blew up yesterday, which I'll try and give my views and my opinion on later on in this episode. But we'll start off with the Arsenal Everton game, and my thoughts on it. Very, very disappointing performance. And it's just been, I know it's Arsenal. I know they play wonderful football and they're very good. They've got some really, really, really good players, and they are where they are for a reason. Simple as that. They've done everything right. Everything's in place. The players that they've recruited over the last few years, and Mikel Arteta is doing a wonderful job there. And okay, they were just missed out on winning the league last season, but you could see, they're going to hit the ground running this season, and they're going to be up there again, challenging again. Um, as for Everton, well, um, in all honesty, when I saw the team, I thought it was a positive in one sense. So we're looking for positives. The formation, much was as per usual. We had Danjuma on the wing, we had McNeil back as well, and of course the three central midfielders, which I'll go more into in a moment. With Beto up front, and at the defensive side with Mikalenko coming back in, and Ashley Young playing instead of Patterson. Of course, with Seamus still being out injured, and we're still waiting for Jack Harrison to make an appearance. So you looked at that team; it looked all right. It was not a bad team to put out at that precise moment. But the way we started was like we were scared little children, and it was like the tactics as well, which didn't help in this matter. It's all right talking about the formation, but the tactics were set in a way that it was to be defensive, to do everything, make sure that the opposition, which they showed too much respect to Arsenal in so many ways, that the likes of Anana were getting the ball, they were giving the ball away, they were anxious and they were scared and didn't know what to do with the ball, so they went backwards. And then of course with Beto, big, a good player for us. I think he's going to be good for us going forward. He was just basically getting off scraps. So what was happening? It was bypassing the central midfield area. It was going back to Tarkowski and Branthwaite, or it was going to Pickford, and the launching game started. And there was whenever and that started and it continued, there was little bits, little crumbs that Beto was trying to get onto, and occasionally one or two times there were opportunities that with especially with Decore when he flew right through and went down. Uh, was it a penalty or not? Well, it obviously wasn't given. And it was little moments like that when the midfield got further forward. And one of the things that was really frustrating as the game was going on was we have Danjuma on one wing and we have McNeil on another. And what I noticed, everything was going centrally. They weren't going out wide. There was nothing going forward in in that sense. So to use the strength of Beto at this point in the game in the first half was, yes, the ball was coming to him. He was trying to get knockdowns. He was trying to do everything he possibly can to set up McNeil and Danjuma and get him into positions. But when the ball was coming to them, they were going back centrally to Decore, Anana, and Idrissa Gay. And basically, for some reason, instead of trying to hit the wings, get the ball into the box, use the strength of Beto, it was going it was going backwards. It was going more centrally. It was trying to manoeuvre, and then because of the poor passing that was ongoing with the three of those central players, Arsenal will get the ball. They will start doing their passing process, and from a fan's perspective, as an Everton fan, sitting watching this in the first half, and I'm sorry, I was bored. I suffer from a condition called Meniere's disease, and I had a dizzy spell, which is one of the conditions, and I had a dizzy spell while I was in my seat, and I got more entertainment out of me having a dizzy spell than watching Everton play, and that's how bad it was. That when that was over, but when I was watching that first half and into the second half as well, the football, giving the ball away countless times, and then it was back in there in Arsenal, and they were just in the motions. It was like a training game. That's my feeling. It was like a training game for them, just passing it around, creating the opportunities when they felt needed to, and doing when them opportunities were made available. But I will take one positive from the game, and that was the defensive side of things. We were a lot better, and I think Branthwaite. We've talked about Branthwaite on this podcast before. Great performance. He played really, really well. I thought Tarkowski was okay. I thought Mikalenko defensively was outstanding. I thought he played really, really well, personally, in the game, and I thought he did really well coming back in. Attacking wise, no, that's another story. As for Ashley Young, yes, he probably did the defensive side of things, and I don't know why, just because he was good at whipping uh, free kicks into the box at one point in his career, and being supposedly really, really good at it. Um, he was taking all the free kicks, every opportunity he can, and the frustrating thing about this was it was like the other week and the previous week. Whenever we've seen him play with his free kicks and corners, and they were just going up in the air and straight to the goalkeepers, just catch it, and everything was just so comfortable. And he continues to do that. And the question is that previous week, and this is just my view, Nathan Patterson played against Sheffield United, played a lot better, especially in the second half. And we saw that assist that he made for Danjuma for the equaliser in that game. And I felt he should have started personally. I think Ashley Young should have been sitting on the bench. And we all talk about experience and having that experience. Experience it, it still doesn't make you a great footballer just because you have the experience. You may have all the knowledge in the world and be able to help other players, but if you're not performing and not doing the jobs that you need to be doing, because he was out of place in a lot of ways in a defensive sense, it wasn't for the fact for the other three defenders, doing their job. it could have been a cricket score in the end. It could have gone that way, but it didn't. I don't know his decision. I don't know what persistence playing with him. It's like when we had the conversation about Michael Keane. Michael Keane is making errors in games, and he's been taken out now. And it looks like, hopefully, fingers crossed, that Jared Branthwaite and James Tarkowski will be our main central defensive um, pairing going forward, and hopefully they won't get any kind of injuries, and they will play for the rest of the season. I just hope that's all I can hope. But as I keep on going back, is that it just baffles me watching that football match how there was no kind of drive, no kind of commitment, trying to get the ball back, getting in their faces, growling, making what we saw last season against Arsenal when Sean Dyche came in, when the players were right in their faces and really put in a performance that helped. But this performance was like, oh, I don't. What do we need to be here for? What's the point? You've got, they get paid thousands of pounds a week to come and play football, and they can't even pass the ball properly. And predominantly, I'm aiming that more at the central midfield area, where basically they just got the ball, they would move around, and they'll pass it back. And if when he tried to pass it forward, it will obviously bounce off, or it will go back into get intercepted by an Arsenal player, or the scenario when the ball comes to them and they miscontrol it or anything like that. The feeling I'm getting is this is a team that has been trained in training to play a negative tactic to try and get a point out of a game and trying to stop this Arsenal team from scoring plenty of goals and playing their game. But in reality, they didn't even need to get off first gear. They could just strolling around the pitch and just a nice day out for them really. Um, and that's how I feel. And at the moment, it's so in that first half you saw that it's boring. It's you just feel fed up by it. And you just get into a point where you're thinking, what's the point trying to get behind this team? Because it's been like this for about 2.5 years. We've been struggling constantly. There's been no kind of hope that can pull us out of this and go in the right direction. And the players actually getting better. And basically, this is just me talking about the first half. The second half, nothing changes. Sean Dyche doesn't make a change. Then he decides, okay, I'm going to bring Calvert-Lewin on, and he makes a direct swap with Beto. Beto was not unfit in any way. He made a decision to actually change it, bring Calvert-Lewin on, and see if that would work. But the funny story about this is the rest of the team stayed as it was. There was no changes. And when finally we brought Garner on, I think at some not long after I think they scored, I still watched, and I could see Garner was not even in a central position. He seems to be always on the wing, and I don't know if he's been told to do that. Maybe I'm wrong. Please tell me if I was watching. I was watching him being more in a central position. I don't know. But basically, he came on, and then because we were one down, with about 10 minutes to go or whatever it may be, he throws Chimiti on. Chimiti did okay. He tried to get the ball and try to drive forward. But the fun story about that is what frustrated me was you brought Chimiti on, who is a striker, and you put him up front with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Why didn't you bring Dominic Calvert-Lewin on and change something in the midfield? Because Decore was not performing well, Anana wasn't performing well, Gay wasn't performing well. Why didn't you just decide, well, take Decore off, he's not doing anything, let's go to a 4-4-2 formation, let's put the two up front, Beto and Calvert-Lewin, let's get the wingers out, let's get the balls in the box, get something going. Let's see if that works. He decided not to, and he just stuck with that formation. And it instead of trying to go and get, we had one shot in the second half, I think, by Dan Jr. went over the bar, and that was it. In the first half, sorry, but that was it. And sorry, it was the second half. I'm just losing it because I got so fed up. It just you don't know where time goes, and it was what's the point being here? Why am I there? I'm an Evertonian. I still have hope, and I still care about. I don't care if they're in the Premier League or if they're in the National League or the Northern Counties League, wherever they are. I will be there, getting behind them, win, lose or draw. It will never change for me. But that performance, all I wanted to see, and the bare minimum, is the team going out there, putting the shift in, growling at the opposition, fighting for that, get that ball, showing them, Arsenal, that we are here to play and we're here to make it hard for you to get a result. We're going to go out there and we're going to try and get a result as well. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. And that's when people start thinking about the manager. It's on the players. They get given instructions, but them instructions have come from the manager and the coaching team to go out there and play like that and set up in that way, in a tactical sense. I am not. I don't go on Football Manager. I know my stuff to an extent. I used to play semi-professionally. I kind of know how tactics are set up in some sense, and I can watch that game and I can say, "What the hell are you doing?" Because at the moment, I do not know what style we have, what way of how we play. I don't know. What's the way to play? What do these players? What is their job to do? What are they going out there to do? Because at the moment, especially in that second half, work more than ever. Pass it back to Pickford, launch it on. Pass it back to Pickford, launch it right to the front. Try and get scraps from it. And all throughout that game, the two centre backs with Calvert-Lewin and Beto, and then Timothy when he comes on, it was just easy pickings. Head it, that's it. And because the midfield were not doing their job and they were trying to be too defensive in their sense, Beto will get the ball, he would turn and he would try to drive forward. The rest of the players are like backing away, and that's when you ask the questions of the manager. And you're asking, why did you set that up? Why have you set it that way? What is our plan? What is the way forward for this football club? We've got players there who potentially, Anana being one of them, who had a very disappointing game. He's got the build and the figure, and he's powerful, and he's got he's got the skills, and he's got the skill set to actually perform at an even bigger level. Because everybody was talking about him being a player going off, even to Arsenal, and getting a really high fee because he's got that potential, but I don't know where it is. We don't see it. We don't see him driving forward, doing the role that he should be doing. Idrissa Gueye is at the end of it. His age is coming. No disrespect, I'm not using ages in this, but Idrissa Gueye is getting to an age, and that he will come to a point when he will retire. He's not getting any younger. And the thing is, with Idrissa Gueye, I have seen him even this season. I've seen him play well, but it just seems to be he can't. The most funniest thing is that he got given the ball, and we all know he can't shoot. He's not a great at shooting at scoring goals from outside the box. He got the ball, and of course we all knew what was going to happen. As soon as he launched it, it went all right over the bar, and we all knew that. But it doesn't stop. Anyway, that was the game, and basically, we got Brentford away this weekend coming, and then we got two home games against Luton and I think it's Bournemouth. We need to get maximum points from those two games, and we need to have a vast improvement on on this performance against Arsenal and against Brentford. We need to show I think to our, to the fans, to everybody, that these players are committed and want to win for Everton Football Club. It just doesn't feel like that at the moment, and that's why we are how many games in with 1 point from, is it 4 games, 5 games, and it's just disappointing. And I just hope that we show some improvement, show some guile, you know, some determination and fight, and growl and go for it. That we can come away from and gradually get better. It just doesn't. I can't see it at the moment. Even if we have Jack Harrison back coming in, Seamus Coleman coming back, it just doesn't. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if they will be able to make impacts and actually help the team to get results. And we'll see. But anyway, onwards and upwards, onwards and downwards, sadly. But hopefully onwards and upwards as we go into the Brentford game. And yes, as I discussed on Friday, the takeover with MSN, MSN. I'm losing it today. Sorry. From 777 Partners. Um, we we've had more stories, of course, with them actually giving a loan to the club for the time being while the process of the takeover is ongoing, um, for working capital and also money for the stadium as well. That was announced yesterday. Well, it was reported through the Athletic, um, and originally I thought, is this good news about this actually? Money coming in from them already showing that they're willing to actually invest into the club. But what we've found out since then is that, as per usual, it's a loan, and that loan, obviously, if they take over, obviously that will be with them. So they've invested that money, but it's again, it's like another loan, another payday loan, as it feels like. Um, and rights, and of course with rights and media from today, because if you go onto Company's House, of course, there's been a lot of charges put to Everton Football Club, and that's regarding the ground, the stadium, Goodison Park, other buildings around Goodison Park, with charges been put where rights and media now secured against against the club. So basically, they're more and more in power, as a loan company, holding all our assets, and it's not just the stadium, Goodison Park. It's not just the buildings around the stadium. It's Finch Farm. It's everything that is Everton Football Club. It's all the assets are now secured in the name of rights and media. So what that means is that if, say, 777 Partners were to fall flat on their faces and basically have to pull out, and that could still happen because of with the Premier League doing their usual checks on on new owners and new people coming to clubs, and with the conduct financial conduct authority also doing their checks. If it's found that they do not have the money to purchase not just the owners shareholding, but also working capital and everything else, that the debt and everything else, what that would mean is that sadly we will be in a position going into administration, and at this moment that is a real threat that could happen. And everybody on social media and everybody who's talking about this, who think you know this, you know 7 Partners coming in, and one or two people who are happy with them coming in, thinking that it will change things, and new people coming in and everything else that you get from new when a takeover takes place. This is not the case. and it just feels like it's like everybody is just taking loans out to help help the running of the football club on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly basis, monthly basis, paying players wages and all the rest of it. And it's just really, really sad that we are now in a position where it looks like we have no money at all, and all the money that we do have is either coming via transfers, which um, we've talked about before, and also securing loans and investing where somebody like 777, who are taking over the football club, but they're also giving Everton a loan to help them out. And that is like, yeah, just going, can we have a loan to help us to get through the next day, basically? And that's what's happening at the moment in time. And because, okay, rights and media are basically secured assets across the football club in a sense, but not the stadium. But the interesting story about that is that MSP, of course, they've invested over £100 million into the stadium project, and that's a separate entity. But also, they can also, if anything, this take up happens, they can also call in, that money that's been invested. We'll see what happens, but it's just like, when is it never ending? I'm not, as you can guess when I'm talking about this, I'm not massive in business. I only know little bits here or there, and I listen to the great, like Paul the Esk, and I listen to John Blaine, and I listen to plenty of finance people who've been in that industry and understand how boardroom works, and how ownerships work, and how shareholding and all that sort of thing. I don't. I only know bits and bobs, and I want to try and understand it more. But it's the fear I'm having is that 777 coming in or not coming in is a bad thing for Everton Football Club, because I don't know. Hopefully, we'll find out what their intentions are, and if their intentions is, if the money that they are going to for this takeover is to pay the shareholding, pay off the debts, and do all that, also be funding the stadium as well, and spend the money, and also make sure there's money available for transfers and everything for the recruitment side of things to actually take the club forward. If that is their intentions, I would like to hear what they want to do and how they want to do it. But if they are not, if they're coming in and just then they're going to drip feed money to actually just make sure that loans are still being paid off, and this is doing this and doing that, then they're not the right people for this football club. And for this football club to be back to where we want it to be, we need people who are willing to come in and actually just completely wipe out the whole debt of the football club, and and also give the club money to actually do the job of recruiting the right players and taking the club forward into the new stadium. But there are people out there, but it does look at the moment they're not coming forward. They're not making themselves known, and this is very, very concerning at this moment in time. And trying to end this on a positive note. Um, there is never a positive note with Everton Football Club at the moment. I try not to be doom and gloom. I try not to be, as I mentioned at the beginning, I try not to be that way. I try to look at the positives of everything, but at the moment there is no positive. There is no light at the end of the tunnel, and it just feels like it's just going to continue being like that for a long time. And we've obviously got the Premier League investigation into the club as well. We don't know what will happen with that. You can go thinking that we're not going to get, points deduction, but we might get a transfer ban. That's not going to help, is it? I don't know, but we still have to go through that. We might, hopefully, you never know. There you are. There's the one little bit of hope that might come away with that with no issues. But the way the club is at the moment in time, it looks like we are basically on a day to day living, basically. living by our means, and it's very, very concerning. And when we start to hear, maybe with 777 putting money in, that's probably, we never know, it might be to pay the players' wages, the staff wages, and everything else to keep everything going the way it is. But I don't know. But hopefully, we might find out stories about that. And one more thing we've got before I end on this, and I've not talked about him, but I think Bill Kenwright, um, you've created this mess, and you've created the problems that have come to this as of today. For some reason, a lot of people still have admire you and think that you are Mr. Everton, that you care about this football club, and you probably do care about the football club. But your business decisions and the decisions that you've made over how many years, 20, 30 years, have been bad ones, and they culminated in you bringing in an owner, a billionaire, who didn't really know how to run a football club. You ran a football club, but you guided him, and I don't know if you ever guided him. I don't know. You just allowed him to do whatever he likes, and you need to retire. You need to move away from the football club. You need to. It's your time. You've destroyed our football club, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And as I say, I do not know where the hope is. You never know. I might wake up tomorrow and this will all be a nightmare, but it's not a nightmare. I will always, as I say before, I'll follow Everton to the ends of the earth, to the day I die, and I'll support them through thick and thin, through the ups and the downs, through win, loss, win, draw, or loss. That's me. And I will remain, every time I go to an Everton game, remain optimistic, hoping that the next performance will be better than the previous one. And I just hope that the club itself can sort itself out. When that'll happen, I don't know. Anyway, I leave it on that note. Thank you again for listening to my podcasts. I do appreciate it. Please give me as much feedback as you possibly can. I want to grow the audience and take it further than I can possibly can. And I do appreciate feedback that I do get online. It's amazing that I do, people are actually willing to listen to my ramblings. Um, so anyway, on that note, I'll be back probably after the Brentford game. So on that note, take care, have a good day, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.